DNVR Broncos podcast coming to you from Studio C again today, where the C stands for can expectations be too high? It'll be an interesting conversation about something that was said yesterday, Zach. But first, want to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook. Hit them up, DraftKings Sportsbook. Bet five on any NBA game. Get $150 in free bets when you do so, which is a great start to your account. I keep telling everyone, put your money on Cale Makar to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. Still can get some decent value on it, but it's better value than the Avs to win the Cup. And they might have to do it without their goalie, but that's a conversation for a different podcast. So let's jump in here, Zach. Maybe we even toss over to Zach in sports for a little update on what Tim Patrick said yesterday.
Well, Ryan, thanks for throwing it over to me. Yesterday, Tim Patrick, after this fifth OTA practice, had a couple of very interesting quotes. Here's what he said. He said, when you see Russell Wilson carry himself the right way every day, it makes you up your game, not to slack and put winning first. At the end of the day, we're here to win a Super Bowl. But that wasn't it, Ryan. He went on and said this, because we don't want to be one of those teams to make excuses. New coach, new quarterback, new offense, and we don't get going until the end of the year. We want to come out firing out of the gate on all cylinders because this is Super Bowl or bust this year.
Ooh, baby. Okay.
This year, he made sure to include this year so that you and I couldn't be like, well, he just means in the Russell Wilson era. 2022.
All right, so let me start here. From a player perspective, I love this. Love this take. I think that essentially you should be going into every year thinking we're going to win every game, we're going to win every playoff game, and then we're going to win the Super Bowl. So I get it. And you know, Pat Bowlen used to say the same thing. Like, he's like, I mean, if we don't believe that we're going undefeated and winning the Super Bowl, then no one will. So I'd actually be curious to see the way that like players look at the schedule when it's released. We got a little bit of a behind the scenes look. Did you watch the Seahawks schedule release?
Oh my gosh. Where they were fooled into thinking it was the worst schedule ever.
Yeah. So like,
Drew Lock was part of that.
yeah, and then I guess he was like at the end he's like claiming that he was in on the joke, and the guy who was in on the joke was like, "No, you weren't, bro," which is hilarious. But anyways, like I wonder if they go like see 13-4, or if they're just like, "Yeah, we can win all of these." I hope
All right.
they say we can win all of these, and it should be Super Bowl or bust. You can't think any other way, in my opinion. Once you have the quarterback, like last year, it should be let's make the playoffs. You know, let's beat the Chiefs. You know, you set little goals that are more attainable. But for this, I think you say we've got Russell Wilson. He's won the Super Bowl. He's been to another one. We all believe in each other. We should win the Super Bowl. Do you want to talk about from a player perspective before I jump into my other perspective?
No, I think that's 100% right. I think that is how the players should be looking at it. And also, look, the players are going to say, look at the past two Super Bowl champions. They had a great quarterback come to their team in the offseason, and boom, they won the Super Bowl. So it's not just them being, you know, crazy in their head. They can actually have things to look at. But you're right, Ryan, from a player's perspective, they better damn believe that they're going for a Super Bowl. Now, they don't really have the backing if it's with Drew Lock, if it's with Teddy Bridgewater, if it's with, I guess they could have said it with Joe Flacco, but it's with any of the other quarterbacks the Denver Broncos have had. You don't really point to anything and say that's legitimate belief there, but still you like the confidence. You want them to think that. But now they have the past 2 years of new quarterbacks going to teams and winning Super Bowls. And they also have a guy that isn't just great. He's a Super Bowl champion in Russell Wilson. So 100%, I think that is the right mindset from Tim Patrick.
Yeah, great comment here from Jose, who said Peyton Manning said essentially they go That's a win. That's a win. That one's going to be tough. That's a win. That's a win. That's a win. So, none of them are losses, but you're just like, okay, we're going to win those, and then those will be a battle. Um, yeah, I think you have to have that mindset as a player.
Yeah, you do. And I like it. But, Ryan, I think there's another side to this.
I do not think you should have this outlook as a fan. And the reason is a couple reasons. For one, it's been so long since the Broncos were good. You got to set your expectations in a place where this is going to be fun for you. Like, basically, I would say you should set your expectations as a fan, and I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm just giving my personal opinion on, giving my advice here. Set your expectations on making the playoffs, because then you're going to enjoy every win and not, just be beside yourself with every loss. I think that this is a very rare opportunity, and I'm actually writing something on this, Zach, for fans. It comes along, I don't know, once every 2 decades. I would say, where you get an opportunity like this, where your team is good, but you don't need to have expectations. And it's happened recently with both the Nuggets and the Avs. And if you talk to diehard fans of those teams, they'll say, "Oh, that was the most fun season because we hadn't made the playoffs yet, but we knew we were good, and we finally were able to get over the hump." Like for the Avs, they literally won in Game 82 to get into the playoffs, and I guess that was even better because they didn't even have any expectations going into that season. They were coming off a rough season. And then for the Nuggets, they had the season where they lost in Game 82 to the Timberwolves. Then the next year, there's expectations where it's like you have to make the playoffs. So right now, the bar is so low. No matter what you do, the bar is going to be infinitely higher next season. But leave the bar where it is right now. Don't preemptively raise it so you don't get to enjoy this. Because if you set Super Bowl or bust expectations as a Broncos fan this year, there's like, I don't know, 75 at least percent chance, probably a 90% chance that they're not going to meet your expectations. And how many years in a row have they not met your expectations? They are primed this year to actually meet fair expectations. So leave it fair, and you'll look back and say, "Oh man, Russell Wilson year one, that was the most fun because we'd been down so bad, and then they came back and they won a playoff game or whatever it may be." So don't go Super Bowl or bust yet, because then you have nowhere to go. You have nowhere to go from there. You
All you
got
have to go is down.
Yeah, you got to start lower.
And J27, don't do this. He's saying, okay, fine, I won't go Super Bowl or bust. Instead, I'm going make the AFC Championship game or bust. And I still think that's too high, Ryan. I think legitimate expectations for this team should be to make the playoffs. And that's a very fair goal. But I do want to warn Broncos fans, that's not a guarantee. Look around this division, look around this conference. That in itself is going to be an impressive feat in year one. Saying that, I do think the Broncos should and will make the playoffs, but it's not a gimme like it would be if the Broncos were in the NFC. So I think that playoffs or bust is a good place to start. But Ryan, when you talk about this once every decade or two thing, is the 2012 season with Peyton Manning similar to this season in your mind?
A little bit. Not that similar though, because if you remember, that team had just come off a playoff win. So like I was sitting there saying, "My God, if they can win a playoff game with Tim Tebow, they should win the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning."
Very fair.
And so this one's a little bit different. It's like they haven't done anything for years, and for years we've kind of thought the players were better than they are. You know what I mean? We've gone through and said like, "Oh, Bradley Chubb, like that's a great edge rusher," and whoever you go through the roster and you're like, "Oh, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Judy," and for years they've underperformed even on an individual basis from what we thought they should do. So it's nothing but underperforming, missing expectations for so many years now. Whereas that Tim Tebow team actually overperformed. They went above and beyond expectations from being, what was it, 1-3, two
Yeah.
and four, 1-3, I think. I don't remember, but and then everything from there was like an overperformance. So to me, this is different. Where you're coming from, I'm at prove it with a lot of guys, but I think they're so trying to prove it because of the situation they're now in. That should make it really fun too.
Ryan, what happens if the Broncos start this season similar to the way the Broncos started in 2012, where they start 2-3 and Russell Wilson has a 3 interception half like Peyton Manning did? I don't want to look at what happened after, but what happens then? Are people pissed off, or are people then starting to say, okay, maybe we should have brought those expectations down this first year?
Oh, I'm sure. And I don't directly remember it. I think I was in my sports talk radio phase in 2012, so I think I have a little bit of memory of what that was
You
like.
were on Sports Talk?
No, I was listening to it. That was like a big moment in my life. I think it was my freshman year of college when I had legitimately discovered sports talk radio and started listening to it, and I was like, "Wow, this is the best job ever." They just talk about sports for a living, and here we are.
Here we
Um,
are. I completely agree. I can't believe it took you till college to figure that out.
yeah, I don't know, because I was always so disappointed that you would like turn on Sports Center at night or whatever, and you'd get maybe one highlight of the Broncos,
Yeah.
or whoever, and then like even if you watch the news, like I would legitimately watch the end of the news to catch the 2 minutes and 30 seconds they did on the Colorado Sports team, and I was like, this is so weak. Like it's so hard to get sports coverage. So then I found sports talk radio, and that obviously satisfied the Broncos itch. Um, and it created a new itch, which was, well, all right, now we need this for the rest of the teams. And
And man,
again, here we are.
as we're going down this tangent, Ryan, I think post-game shows scratch the biggest itch for me that just was not there, because you're right. I mean, the game would end on Channel 4 and you'd be like, oh, well, now I'm just by myself
Yeah.
and can't celebrate this big win or can't hear about this big loss. And then, they would cut to the locker room for about 5 minutes, and then that's it. That's it. You don't get to hear anything. So I love that we do that now.
Oh, 100%. I do too. I mean, it's crazy to think that there's like kids, like legitimate kids, who are just like watching this on YouTube right now. Like what I would have done when I was 9 years old to be able to get an hour of Broncos talk in my life.
Yeah.
Anyways, where were we? Oh,
I have
right,
no idea.
2012. So I'd assume it would be very similar. And what I remember about that time in 2012 when the Broncos were sitting at 2-3 was, is Peyton Manning washed? That was the
Mhm.
question that was being asked at the time. Were the expectations too high? Did we overlook the injury? Is he ever going to be the same? The 3 interceptions against Atlanta really ramped that up. It was like, you had guys on the radio being like, I've watched Peyton Manning for many years. That arm just doesn't look the same to me anymore. I don't know what to tell you guys. This is scary. The fact that he can't find those windows. Why is he getting fooled by that Atlanta defense, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So it would be similar. It would. And people would be saying, oh, maybe all those coping Seattle fans were actually right when they said that Russ is washed. And the Broncos have the worst quarterback in the division, and all of that nonsense. And maybe they would do the same thing and go on a 10-game win streak to end the year or whatever. Um, but that's where we would be, is panic mode, full, especially because the beginning of the schedule is so much easier than the end of the schedule.
Right, exactly. You're 100% right. However, Ryan, if the Broncos then go on to win 11 straight, 10 straight, 12 straight, or let's say 8 of 11, 9 of 12, something like that, and they beat the Kansas City Chiefs in week 14 at home, or they beat Kansas City in Kansas City a couple of weeks later, Ryan, then I think expectations legitimately do change in the middle of the season to, oh shit, this is a Super Bowl team right now. Now, again, I don't want to I never want to put the bust at the end of that this year, but I think expectations will legitimately go up to Super Bowl, because if they go on a tear like that, or they're at least competing in the division, they're right there at the top of the division, and they beat Kansas City either in Denver or on the road, boom, I think expectations do change this season, and we do change the way we view this team and we think of this team, because that would be legit. If they're competing in the AFC West, Ryan, we know the AFC West has 2 to 3 Super Bowl contenders in it potentially. And then we also know if they beat Kansas City, that's the team that they need to beat to get over the hump. So if they do those two things, Ryan, I think the expectations change midseason.
Yeah, and look, I'm not going to try and temper those expectations once that time comes. But at least allow the team to bring you there, because it'd be fun. And I'm literally, that's all I care about, is I want Broncos fans to have so much fun with this season. And yeah, if they beat the Chiefs and they're leading the division or anything like that, then of course you're going to start dreaming of what could be. But all I ask is that you don't go into it thinking that, because it just makes everything so much more. There's this. It makes the stakes too high from the start. Whereas, like, I just think this should be the baseline season. Set the baseline for what we expect going forward. You should really, like. I can't tell anyone to have no expectations because that's silly. But you should really go in and just say, like, it's a blank slate. It's 0 to Super Bowl. Russell Wilson, you're going to come in and draw the line somewhere in here. And guess what? Everything behind that line gets erased. No one should think about it ever again. Everything from then on, wherever you set that line this year, should be the baseline for what we expect going forward.
And Ryan, that's what I want to get into now, is how do we set expectations for this team after this year? What do they do this year for then us to say Super Bowl or bust next year? Is there anything that they can't do this year for us to say, well, maybe it's not Super Bowl or bust next year? But first, when we're talking about expectations, Ryan, when we talk about pizza expectations, I think of sexy pizza. I think you got to be that good in order to be pizza for me. And our friends over at Sexy Pizza have that delicious pizza. And here's the awesome thing, because they're a Colorado company, they want to celebrate the Colorado Avalanche's playoff run. So from now until June 12th, you get 15% off your entire order over at Sexy Pizza using the promo code DNVRAVS. That's code DNVRAVS to get 15% off your entire order over at Sexy Pizza. It's going to be the perfect pizza for your game day party.
There you go. What a great, great deal. And I love that they're getting in on the Avs. Pizza in an Avs game, that sounds nice. But also, if you can't do pizza, or you're not going to do pizza, you got to come down to the DNVR bar. Enjoy the best watch party in the world, straight up. Doesn't get better than at the DNVR bar. It's so much fun to be down there. I'll be down there tonight, unless, I don't know, Zach, I woke up feeling like someone might reach out to me and say they have an extra ticket. I don't know why I felt that way, but ever since, I've just been crossing my fingers that happens. Otherwise, I'll absolutely be at the DNVR bar, because it's the second best place to be for any Avs game. Hopefully they go up 2-0 tonight in the series. I cannot wait. I'm so excited for this game.
Ryan, all you need is one of two things to happen. Either someone likes you and they have an extra ticket, and I know a lot of people like you, so that's a high possibility.
Thanks.
Or someone with superstition realizes you were at the last game where the Avs won, and you need to be there in order for the Avs to get game 2.
That is true. I like it. Avs with me in attendance so far this postseason, I believe, are 3-1.
3-1. All right. We'll take it. 3-1. That's a Stanley Cup trip. And if you can't make it to the DNVR bar, but you still want to watch your Colorado sports teams, got to turn to our friends over at Evoca TV, because not only can you watch the Avs, not only can you watch Nuggets, but you can watch the Rockies as well. over at Avaca TV. And Ryan, we talked about scratching the itch that we didn't have, we couldn't turn to when we were younger. When I moved out, when I was done with college, all I wanted in my cable package was to be able to watch the Avs, Rockies, and Nuggets, because anyone can watch the Broncos, really. But those were the three things I wanted to watch. I didn't care about movies and stuff, but you had to get the most expensive cable package in order to be able to get these specialty TV team or TVs. And now Avaca TV gets that for you. It's not just not expensive. It is so affordable, only $25 a month, and you get $10 off your first 3 months by using the promo code DNVR over at evaca.tv/DNVR. It's an incredible deal, and you can watch us on there because there is a DNVR channel. So check them out over at evaca.tv/DNVR and use that promo code DNVR.
Love it. Love it. All right. I want to address something really quick because someone in the comments said, "Did you guys watch Russ last season seriously?" And I don't know, like I don't know where this is coming from. This idea that he wasn't good last season, but I just want to especially highlight the games before the game in which he got injured. Game 1, 18 of 23, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that'll do. Game 2, 22 of 31, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Yep. 343 yards.
Game 3, 23 of 32, 298 yards, 1 touchdown.
Yep. 111 passer rating. Sure.
Game 4, 16 of 23, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. That one is surprisingly low on the yards.
Wait, but really quick, Ryan. Four games through, how many interceptions?
0.
Oh, okay. To how many touchdowns?
4, 6, 8, 9.
Yep, exactly. Okay, I'll take that ratio.
Yes, and by the way, well over 70% completion percentage in these games.
I'll certainly take that.
Yes. And then finally, I don't really know. I don't remember this game as much, the game he got injured, but I do know that he was 11 of 16 with 1 touchdown and 1 interception in the game he got injured. So 10 touchdowns, 10-1 touchdown to interception ratio before he got injured, and 70% completions, over 70% completions.
Yeah, pretty darn good. Now, Russ did come back just after missing only 3 games, Ryan, and he struggled the first 2 games out of the gate against Green Bay and against Arizona. He had 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions combined in those 2 games. But then I don't just want to write off the rest of the season. Ryan, he played in 7 more games, and I'm not cherry picking. There's interceptions in these games. He had 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 104.7 passer rating. He threw for 65% completion and about 220 yards per game. So is he putting up MVP type numbers? Not necessarily, but it's not bad either. I mean, it's really darn good still.
Yeah, it's insane. And the touchdown to interception stuff and the stats and all that matters. But if you just watch these games, man, it's like watching the Broncos in the 80s, where they try to stick to this like really vanilla game plan, and then they're down late and they just say like, "Russ, go save us." And so many times he does. That's why for years Russell Wilson's been my favorite quarterback to bet on, because in clutch, he's so freaking good. He just turns his game up to the next level, just like John Elway. I'm not comparing him to John Elway, but in this case, it's very similar. Like when they need magic at the end of the game, they just say like, "Russ, please create magic for us," and then he just does it. So like a majority of the time, he just goes and creates magic for them. So that's the most impressive part about these stats for me. But I mean, again, even if you don't like, you could take out those 2 games after the injury, and I think it wouldn't even be cherry picking. I think it would just be fair to say like, he came back below healthy. But it doesn't matter. You don't even need to. It's 25-6, 25 touchdowns to 6 interceptions in 14 games. In 14 games.
And on top of that, let's just look at his final 2 games, the most recent 2 games that he has played, Ryan. Not only did he have 7 touchdowns to 1 interception, 7 touchdowns in 2 games to 1 interception, a passer rating above 120. But Ryan, he put up 44.5 points per game on average. He had 51 in the second to last game and 38 in the last game. Both were wins, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what people are talking about. And I agree that after the injury, he didn't look quite the same, but that's fair. That's what happens. And these guys, they don't have the luxury of not playing, like especially the quarterback. It's basically as soon as you can grip that football again, we're putting you out there. And so, yeah, he didn't look quite the same, but he wasn't the same. He should be the same now. It was a thumb injury. It's not like it was, an ACL.
The most concerning game that I saw from Russell Wilson was that I believe it was a Monday night game against the Washington football team in Washington. The San Francisco or Seattle only put up 15 points. Russ looked bad. He looked bad, did not pass the eye test. That was his second game, or that was his third game back. But then what I loved was what he did the next game, playing the San Francisco 49ers, who were a powerhouse last year. He went out 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 100 passer rating, 80% completion, and got the win, put up 30 points. That was a huge bounce back response, and that really alleviated a lot of concerns from me from what I saw the week before.
Yeah, I mean, man, 80% completion is absurd. I actually played Russ in the Madden League the other day, and I think he had even a higher completion percentage on me. But
Did you
yeah.
let him win?
No, he was indefensible. He made every single throw. It was so frustrating.
Oh, so you lost without even letting him win.
Oh yeah, I lost. I was doing a pretty good job of keeping up with Russ because I couldn't get a stop, but I got the ball back. I got my one stop of the game with 1:30 left, and I got the ball back, and I just needed to score a touchdown and get a 2-point conversion, and I threw a pick in the end zone.
That sounds like Deshaun Watson for you. Actually, literally, that sounds like the reports coming out of OTAs from Cleveland. Oh my gosh, people are
Oh, are they
losing their
not good?
minds. Oh no, I mean he's throwing interception after interception, incompletion after incompletion, and I haven't seen Cleveland's response from it, but let's just say the rest of the country is having some fun with it.
Oh, geez, I haven't seen any of that. That's crazy. Real quick, just to tie a bow on something we talked about yesterday. Something doesn't add up with the match. I don't understand because all we ever hear about is quarterbacks and how much work they put in, and they're at the facility at 4 a.m. and they don't leave until 8, and all they care about is football, and they just study film and this, that, and the other thing. There is no way you can be as good at golf as those guys are and not be playing at least semi consistently.
Yep, I completely agree. So I didn't watch any of the match yesterday. It just went right over me. But were Mahomes and Allen good?
Um, Mahomes was not Allen.
So
Patrick
that's the guy
Mahomes,
that's putting in the work.
yeah, he was the best player in the 4. Um, but Josh Allen did nothing to help him. And Tom and Aaron, who I really got the vibes that those two don't like each other.
Yeah,
Like
me
I
too.
thought it was weird that they were teammates because it didn't feel like buddy buddy. Like Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen felt like, oh, like we're homies, we go way back and we're representing the young quarterbacks and all that stuff. Tom and Aaron were like barely talking and they kept on disagreeing on like reading putts, but Aaron
Oh, even
Rodgers,
yesterday they were
yeah, yeah,
disagreeing?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Aaron Rodgers on the second to last hole gave Tom a read. So Aaron Rodgers is the better putter. In fact, he's like incredible at putting. It blows my mind. Like he hit a 15-footer for the win. So he was just like draining putts. So Tom was like leaning on him a little bit, but they would disagree, and I think Tom would go with his read. But on the last hole, Tom was like, "I think this is outside the cup," and Aaron's like, "No," or second to last hole, and Aaron's like, "No, I don't think it is," and it totally was, and Tom was pissed that he took Aaron Rodgers' advice because then he putted it again and like putted it the way he thought he should have and drained it, and he was just like you could see steam coming out of his ears. He's like, "Why did I listen to that idiot?"
Aaron made him look bad. I love it.
Yeah. But yeah, and they only played 12 holes, which I guess was just like a viewer thing. Maybe they just didn't think people were going to tune in for 4.5 hours. But the 12th hole, the two quarterbacks named with the number 12 came through, and Aaron Rodgers hit a bomb to win. It was crazy.
Man, I really hope that Aaron throwing Tom off makes Tom just beat him down even more in the next NFC
Well,
Championship
they
game.
were teammates and they won. So
Yeah, I guess it worked.
it was Tom's tee shot and Aaron's putt. So they worked together on that.
Man, I mean, I guess I'm not surprised that Aaron Rodgers is good at golf because he doesn't go to OTAs anymore. You were
That's
talking
true.
about quarterbacks needing time to work on their golf game. He's got plenty of time.
It blows my mind, dude. Like like I assume, as athletes, it doesn't surprise me that they can like drive the ball far and do all that stuff. But like little things like putting, just because you're like a great athlete doesn't mean you can just stand over a putter and drain it. They are practicing where somehow, some way they are getting out there, not just a little bit, like a good amount.
You think they just have virtual golf? Well, you probably can't do putting in virtual golf, can you?
They've created these crazy like virtual putting mats now, that like they must cost hundreds of thousands because they're like have like hydraulic lifts, and you can be like, oh, I want a putt that breaks right to left 6 inches, and then it goes like and like raises one side. It's pretty crazy.
Maybe that's what they have inside the facility for these guys.
Or just at their houses.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, anyways, I guess you want to circle back to the Super Bowl or bust thing and just say like, for me, I love it from the players. I don't. I just hope the fans don't go there that soon.
I completely agree. But now, Ryan, what happens this year for next year to be Super Bowl or bust for the Broncos? For us entering the year to be saying, okay, we saw enough last year. It's Super Bowl or bust.
Probably win one playoff game,
Mm,
uh, and even that might be a little too high. But I just think that's probably where we're headed if they win a playoff game. If they don't, then I think people will say like, okay, you got to get back there. Now you're experienced. People will definitely still say Super Bowl or bust. Um, but I think that's where you go is you look and you just say like, if they win a playoff game, people aren't going to be saying, okay, let's go one step at a time. Let's just win two playoff games now. Like people are being like, all right, we got in there, we won a playoff game, we lost to so and so. We should be able to beat them and win the Super Bowl.
yeah, realistically, I think you're spot on. Or be the number one seed in the AFC. Either of those, you would show that there's enough promise to then go into next year. Now, Ryan, on the opposite side, what has to happen for this year? For next year, we're saying this isn't a Super Bowl or bust team yet.
The same thing, just the other side. Miss the playoffs.
Oh man, there would be so much drama if this team misses the playoffs.
Yeah, and what's really concerning about that is you can be a very good team in the AFC West this year and miss the playoffs.
Yep.
Someone is going to feel that feel
Yep.
where they say, "What? How is that possible? We were good. We beat good teams. We had a we were way over 500 and we missed the playoffs." Like if you look back on that Tebow season, the Broncos won the division at 8-8. That will be last place in this division this year with
Yep.
a bullet.
Yep.
So it's crazy the way the AFC is, and especially the AFC West. But someone's going to get last place in the AFC West, and that team will not be going to the playoffs. And it could be any of the four teams in the AFC West. One of those teams, look at those teams. One of them isn't going to the playoffs. Now, there's one that no one would be shocked if they didn't go to the playoffs. But all the other teams, like you look and you're just like, those teams should be in the playoffs. If you were just to take away divisions, you look at those four teams, you say those four teams are going. Well, one of them isn't. And the rest of the AFC is gonna have similar things where it's just like, wow, that team was 10-7 and they missed the playoffs, and it's crazy.
It really is crazy, and that's just why when we view this, we just have to keep in mind just how difficult this division is and how difficult this conference is. And the one thing that is different about this Broncos team and the setup than the past two Super Bowl champions, where we talk about how this team can have legitimate confidence. Okay, we got a new quarterback in here who's really good. We can go win the Super Bowl because Tom Brady did it 2 years ago. Matthew Stafford did it last year. Ryan, the one difference though, those two teams had established coaching staffs. They had the systems in place, so where the quarterback was the only big difference. The Denver Broncos not just have a new quarterback, they have a new system, they have a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new special teams coach. Everything here is new, and that shouldn't be overlooked. I think if everything goes well, it shouldn't hold them from winning a Super Bowl this year, but also could lead to some more bumps in the road than those other teams had.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it is a technical possibility that all four teams in the AFC West could make the playoffs.
Plus
Um,
2,000 over at DraftKings Sportsbook.
yeah, that's insane. I just think that someone's going to get beat up a little bit more than the rest of the teams. And I truly believe it could be anyone. It could be the Broncos. And when I say beat up, I don't mean necessarily injuries, although that's going to play a role in this, of course. I just think like one of these teams is going to hit a little skid. They're going to get beat up by the other teams in the AFC West and the AFC, and they're going to lose, 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5, and take themselves out of the playoffs.
Yeah, and that very well could happen, and that's why I also don't think that the number one seed in the AFC West is going to be from the AFC is going to be from the AFC West because they're just going to cannibalize themselves too much.
Yeah, I mean, I play in the NFC North in our Madden league, and I think it's the best division in the league. But right now, it's just a giant logjam, and all the teams in the other divisions are exceeding. And this is actually something that we could worry about a little bit as well. Only one team from my NFC North is going to end up making the playoffs because
Wow.
it's been so even in there. And so like the teams that's in second place in the division is way behind the wild card because all the other divisions are, eating their young.
That's a really good point and a scary point.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if it evens out, let's say all the teams split in the division, which would be crazy, but possible. There's a chance that you might only get your division winner in if other teams, have two really good teams and two really bad teams.
Man, that is wild. The winner of the division's 10-7, and they're the only team that makes it.
And it's like 9-6, 9-6, 9-6.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, that is wild. That's a crazy case to look at. How
Yep.
this division could be so good where 3 or 4 teams make it, or it could be so competitive where only one does.
Yeah, there's not really precedent, I don't think, for for a division this good. I think there's no precedent, but for a conference this good, I think there's limited precedent, and because of that, someone's going to be really upset by the end of the year. At least one team is going to be really upset, and their fan base is going to be losing their minds. How did we miss the playoffs with Joe Burrow? How did we miss the playoffs with Russell Wilson? How did we miss the playoffs with this, Justin Herbert Chargers led team that we dominated free agency? Someone's going to be saying that. They're going to be beside themselves. And what's crazy is they they won't have even done anything that wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're 100% right, man. When I think of just teams beating each other up, Ryan, I think of on the ice and playoff hockey, and I see these guys after they score a goal, they're so happy they open their mouth and they just have 4 teeth gone. And I think, man, you need to check out our friends over at Green Mountain Dental
It
because
doesn't really
they
happen
can.
anymore.
I saw it 2 nights ago. The guy didn't have 2 teeth right in the middle.
Was it Eric Johnson? I know he's missing his front teeth.
Man, I don't remember who. I don't remember what team it was. It could have been Eric Johnson. And I just think, man, you need to check out our friends over at Green Mountain Dental. It's only a 15-minute drive from Ball Arena, and they will hook you up with a free Sonicare toothbrush when you schedule a cleaning, X-ray, and exam. They're the best damn family-owned dentistry in the Denver metro area. They're part of our family, so make them part of your family. Check them out over at Green Mountain Dental, and again, schedule that cleaning, X-ray, and exam for a free Sonicare toothbrush.
The other thing, Zach, is once teams get into the playoffs, it's going to be an absolute bloodbath. Like I the NBA playoffs have been just a terrible product this year, especially after the early rounds. And I just think the NFL is going to be the exact opposite. I mean, it was last year. Like almost every single game was like a 10 out of 10 banger. And I think that's what you're going to get next year, especially on the AFC side of things. And the NFC, still has really good teams. They're just not quite as deep from a quarterback perspective. Um, you could make the case that Rodgers and Brady are still the two best quarterbacks in the NFC. So that's the slight difference there. But I just think, the NFL playoffs this year might be the best they've ever been.
Oh, I can't wait. And the thing is too, if the Broncos or whatever team makes it out, or whatever teams make it out of the AFC West, they're going to be battle tested. Where there's going to be some other teams in the AFC that aren't as ready for the challenge, and that could help the Broncos.
There you go. All right, let's jump into the comments from our great listeners. And first, Zach, I think we wanted to give a shout out to one of our great listeners, Melissa Burrow. It is her birthday today. So happy birthday, Melissa. We love you. We appreciate everything that you do to spread the good word about DNVR. And we know you're an absolute gem when it comes to people in this community.
Yes, 100%, Ryan. Happy birthday, Melissa. We so much appreciate all of the support you give us on Twitter. Here, we love you as part of our family.
All right, let's jump into these comments. First one's from SF, who says, Kahoot is the best. Professors used it in med school. I was so competitive in it that it was probably more stressful than any actual exam I took. Anyway, speed is just as important as accuracy and for getting points. So it shows that Kush is also a very fast processor, as well as knowing the right answer. This is great stuff. Great news.
Pretty huge from the center position, because they identify so much stuff when they get to the line, and then they have to identify so much stuff right after post snap.
Yep. I'm resisting the urge to talk about the comment that just came in. Should I?
Yes. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay. This is from Purple Panda 55. The loss of Tyreek Hill is overstated. No, it's not. They brought in Juju and Sky Moore plus Justin Ross, and they still have Mahomes and Andy Reid. That last part is true.
Mhm.
Their offense is still going to be good because of those two guys. But the loss of Tyreek, I would say, is actually understated. It's everything to me. It was, if you just watch their offense, the entire thing was either a throw to Tyreek Hill or a play that Tyreek Hill opens up by running to a certain area. That's not going to happen. Look who we're talking about here. Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore, Justin Ross. They're nothing compared to Tyreek Hill. The three of them combined, if you combine their skills, still wouldn't create Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill's the most dangerous player in the NFL. And when you lose that, you're losing a great receiver. You're losing a great weapon, and you're losing someone that defense always has to have their eyes on. So I completely agree with you, Ryan. I don't think it's understated at all.
Let me just put it this way: who on the Broncos can cover Tyreek Hill?
No one.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Not even Pat.
Mm-hmm.
Who on the Broncos can cover Juju Smith-Schuster?
All three of their top guys.
Anyone, yes. And I'm going with the rest. Sky Moore, Justin Ross. We don't know about Sky Moore yet. I mean, he's a fast rookie. But I'm not scared about the matchup with any of those guys. Now, of course, Pat Mahomes is going to create plays, and they're going to get it down the field, and they'll score touchdowns, and they'll do what they do. But you don't go into the only person you go into saying, I don't know who's going to cover him is Kelsey, and Kelsey's obviously going to eat. But we talked about this every year before the Broncos played the Chiefs. You have to choose one. Are you going to give him a chance to hit Tyreek down the field, or are you going to give him a chance to get Kelsey for 10 to 15 or even 5? And you always choose Kelsey. Well, now you don't have to necessarily make that decision unless one of those guys, like a Sky Moore, becomes a crazy, dangerous deep threat, which is a toss-up whether he's going to be. So Kelsey is gonna have much less fun, and things are going to be more difficult for them. That does not mean they're going to have a bad offense, but it is massive. They're going to have to work a lot harder.
Well, and on top of that, Ryan, no one is going to be Tyreek Hill. Not just on the Chiefs. No one is Tyreek Hill. And so many people try, including the Broncos, after they saw what Tyreek Hill brought to the NFL, they said, well, we want the next one. And teams went out and used first, second, third round picks, fifth round picks like the Broncos did to try to go get that guy. And no one in the NFL has found him. Maybe the closest guy to him is Jalen Waddle, who's now down there with Tyreek in Miami.
Yeah, today I saw my guy Mike McDaniel was asked, can he get the ball out? Can Tua get the ball out far enough for those guys to be able to be used as a deep threat? And he was way more insightful than I would have been if I were him. But he said, essentially, for the plays that we run, you don't need to throw it 80 yards. Like, we can't protect long enough for anyone to throw it 80 yards. You need to be able to throw it 60 yards, and he can throw it. He actually didn't say that. He said he needed to be able to throw it 60 yards, and I think he threw 155 today. So,
Wow, not even the confidence from his own head coach.
yeah, I mean, he was building the confidence, but he didn't say explicitly he could throw it 60 yards, which I
Right.
think he can. Just about everyone in the NFL can. Quick super chat here from my guy Luis, who says RK for president 2028. Absolutely not. Unless it's like president of DNVR.
Oh man, you don't want to run?
There is literally nothing that could get me into politics.
President of Denver Sports. How about that?
Yeah, count me in. President of the Broncos? Sure.
Oh, okay.
Like president of the athletic department at CU? Yeah, I'm in on that. Anything politics? I'm 100% out. Next
Well,
one
we
comes
want to
in.
keep you here, that's for sure.
Next one coming in from Mike1809. My boys, who has the higher powered offense? Russ-led Broncos or McKinnon-led Avs? Freaking can't wait to see offensive football in Denver in a few short months. Let's go. It's definitely the Avs, at least at this point.
Yeah, in my opinion, the best team in the NHL, who's led by great offense. Yeah, I'm going them, and that's not a bash against Russ and the Broncos.
You know how in Madden there's like X Factors and superstars and all that stuff? I just downloaded NHL over the weekend because I was waiting for some Avalanche hockey and it wasn't there. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to download this game. I downloaded at like midnight, stayed up late playing it. Everyone on the Avs, like top two lines is either a superstar or an X Factor.
Man, that is so much fun.
Manning's forehead says, DNVR, call Hank up to the majors. He can do a great job replacing Mace because he already has chemistry with the rest of the Broncos. Already to a certain degree, has to cover and know the team for a draft pod and can write. Give the man his due. We love us some Hank, and you can absolutely expect to see more Hank around here.
Yep, absolutely love Hank. He is the best, just like you said, Manning's forehead. Next one coming in from DNVR Rivals says, hey guys, is it crazy that our big fundraiser game is less than a month away for DNVR Rivals? June 26th, under the lights, a free fundraiser. Hope every DNVR family member will be there. I truly believe the energy in Denver changed the moment Hackett and Russ got paired together. I believe the most successful team and the most fun teams in the NFL right now. The old grump football methods are slowly dying out, LOL. My question today is, out of all of the Colorado teams, how many championships do you see them winning over the next 5 years? Do you think if the Avs win the Stanley Cup, it will jolt the other Denver teams to win it all? I remember the 2020 Tampa Bay, Florida teams had a similar chain reaction when the Lightning won the Cup. Then I always remember in 2018 when the Red Sox won the World Series, it led to the Pats and Bruins success that year. I would love to see Denver go on a run like that with the Broncos, Nuggets, and Avs winning it all. It would take a lot of miracles for the Rockies to be included in this hypothetical event. Either way, thank you all for the great content. Support DNVR Rivals, and I agree with your World Championship sentiment for the NFL. Let's ride and dine.
You don't even need to leave the city to talk about that effect, because 1996, the Colorado Avalanche win the Stanley Cup, bringing Denver its first ever championship, which I assume had to frustrate John Elway a little bit. You know, John Elway had been here for 13 years at that point, hadn't got over the hump. The Avs walk into town, hoist the Stanley Cup, become the darlings of Denver, and Elway said, you know what, F this, and went and won back-to-back right after that. So, yeah, I think it's definitely possible that it creates a chain reaction. I don't know if there's actually something to that, but you see it happen in other cities, including in this one.
Who would be pissed in this scenario?
No one really could be pissed.
Yeah.
Like, they've been the best team in town for a little bit now, so they deserve it. They're kind of the Broncos at this point, just not, they haven't had to wait as long. So they get it done, but then, you know, I don't know, maybe there's something to seeing a parade in your city that lifts those guys just a little extra bit.
So then it would be the opposite. It would be the Avs not winning it this year. Russell Wilson coming to town his very first year and winning the whole thing. Then the Avs would kind of be like the John Elway, like, hey, whoa, we've been here for so long, and now we
Yeah.
have to be the ones to celebrate you before us.
Let's hope that doesn't happen because that would mean the Avs don't win it this year.
Yeah.
Next one's from Mark IT Snatch says, "Hey guys, the Smiling Assassin, Weapon X, K-Jack, all in their respective primes. Which of the hard-hitting Broncos safety do you absolutely not want to take a hit from more than the other two? And is there any other Broncos safety that hit harder than those three?" So first of all, I mean, you're definitely avoiding Steve Atwater at all costs. But Kanoy Kennedy
Hmm.
used to destroy people. And he was like famous or infamous, I guess, for getting suspended because of it, and fined and all that stuff. It was like right when they started trying to take it out a little bit more and punishing guys. Kanoy Kennedy was just out there just obliterating people.
Yeah, Steve Atwater, and the reason for that is, I mean, not only was his nickname the Smiling Assassin. When you have assassin in your name, that's pretty bad. But also he's massive. He is huge. We talk about Kareem being like he plays way bigger than he is. Steve Atwater played bigger than he is, and he's a massive guy too. So yeah, I want to stay away from him.
Yeah, and Jose points out John Lynch also should be in that
Mm.
conversation. Dennis Smith should be in that conversation.
What about
Uh,
the guys in the no-fly zone? TJ Ward and Darian Stewart.
Yeah, TJ would be the one you don't want to take a hit from there, but he's so much smaller than Steve Atwater. Like
Hmm.
you see them standing next to each other, and it'll blow your mind that they even play the same
Yeah.
position.
Yeah,
Um, Steve's the one that I would not want anything to do with.
I completely agree. Next one from Melbourne Broncos says, my boys, do you think Tim Patrick's statement, if you can't put in extra work, you're not serious about winning and you don't belong on this team, was directed at Melvin Gordon? I think it's possible he will be traded very early. Cheers.
No, I don't think it was directed at him. Um, and no, I don't think he'll be traded ever. Um,
I agree with you that it wasn't directed at him. I don't think Tim got up there and said, I want to make a pointed statement directly toward Melvin Gordon in my press conference. However, I do think that people that aren't there, other players are noticing
yep,
where they
yep,
might not have as much in the past.
yeah. It matters more. This is what I was talking about. Everything matters more. It's not like we can say they should have expectations to win the Super Bowl every year, but it's not real. Like last season, internally, those guys weren't thinking like, man, if we just do the little bit extra work, that could be the difference between winning the division and last place. They weren't thinking that way. It'd just be based on human nature. Now they are. They're saying every little thing we do could be the difference at the end of a game. It could be the difference at the end of the season. And I think they notice. That being said, he's not getting traded. He's here to be the number 2 running back, and he'll be here for the duration of his contract, which is 1 year, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, it's really hard to imagine that any big time players and big time contributors are going to be traded this year, Ryan, because this team is, as the team says, they're Super Bowl or bust this year. They're making that big push this year. You don't trade big time players.
Last one's from Bronc Oilers, who, by the way, I feel like should look at my Twitter feed. I retweeted a national media member in hockey who said that Ball Arena the other night was a top 5 atmosphere he's ever
Yeah.
experienced because these Oilers fans, man, they're like convinced they have the best atmosphere in hockey, and I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm cool with like like saying like our atmosphere is amazing, but they're like trying to put our stadium down. I don't think Bronco Oilers did it, but I'm reading comments on Twitter that are like, Ball Arena's a library. Wait till you come to Edmonton. I'm like, this guy's been in every hockey arena and he's telling you it was a top 5 atmosphere. You're
Right.
sitting on your couch watching on ESPN or TNT. Like, what are you talking about right now?
Right. I completely agree.
Anyways, Bronco Oilers, the homie, says, I think it's really cool to hear the way Kahoot is being utilized, that the guys are being competitive and having fun with the learning process. Given the complexity of this offense, the inexperience of the coaching staff, and gauntlet of a schedule we've got, I was really concerned about early season growing pains coming back to bite us. And to an extent, I still am. But I'm encouraged that the emphasis on teaching and learning with the staff will hopefully mean a much cleaner game as far as mental errors and processing of the scheme early in the season. Also, how good does Russ look in his new threads? Give me Russ over Brady any day for sexiest quarterback in the league. Go thick boys and go Broncos.
There we go. We got our first look at Russ wearing an orange jersey today as the Broncos were doing some sneak preview stuff. Love to see it. And then also Ryan, I think it's crazy to expect this team to not have any bumps in the road this season. Whether that means they just don't convert a couple of third downs against the Texans, but they still win by 21 points, or whether that means they drop the game to San Francisco in week 3. It's crazy just to expect them to hit the ground running without any bumps. Now, it doesn't mean that they expect them to lose one of the first 2 games, even the first 3 games, but just be realistic with the expectations and just keep in the back of your mind, Broncos started 2-3 under Peyton Manning. That doesn't mean a 2-3 start's coming for the Broncos this year, but let's say they go 2-1 because that one loss is to the San Francisco 49ers, a team that they should have beat. It's not the end of the world.
Yep. They should absolutely start 2-0. That's a nice little foundation for the rest of your season. How good does Russ look in his new threads? Henry called him a fire hydrant today, and I think it's the most perfect thing I've ever heard.
Oh, boy. Short and stout.
Just, rock solid, but small.
Yep. Yeah. And bright.
Yes, exactly. And bright, exactly. What was I going to say? Actually answer the question, how good does he look? Every year when we have talked about quarterbacks coming to Denver, I've always said it just feels like Russell Wilson would be a Bronco. He's like such a Bronco. I don't know how to exactly explain it, but he just seems like a Bronco to me. And seeing him in that uniform just completely confirms it. Like, when you see some edit of a player in a new jersey after they just got traded and you're like, whoa, that looks weird. How about Tom Brady in a Buccaneers uniform? The first time you saw it, you're like, what the hell is that? I have no feelings like that towards seeing Russ in a Broncos. It's like, oh yeah, that looks completely normal. That's what he's supposed to look like.
Yep. And he's a Denver Bronco man in the next 10 to 12 years.
I mean, that's aggressive, but for the next many years, he's a Denver Bronco. And for the next many years, hopefully we'll be doing this podcast. We'll be able to keep doing that as long as you guys keep supporting us with the great support that you guys always give us. So we thank you guys so much for that. Hit us with a thumbs up on YouTube on your way out of here. Thanks to everyone who commented. Hopefully see some of you guys down at the DNVR bar for Avs Oilers tonight. But for now, that wraps it up for us on the DNVR Broncos podcast. We'll catch you later.